There's a police-involved shooting coming out of Oklahoma that everybody's talking about, because you have an unarmed motorist who broke down in his vehicle, and while trying to get help, police that were on another car pulled up, and the police officer, Betty Shelby, basically walked up to talk to the person, and shortly thereafter the person was tased, and then the person was shot. If you watch the video, it looks like the whole time his hands were up. It looks like the whole time the person was cooperating and following instructions. The police have a different story. Actually, they were trying to float their story before the videos came out, and now that the videos have all come out, their story don't look like it's very true. The first part of it being that the gentleman, Terence Crutcher, was reaching in his vehicle, and that's when Betty Shelby felt like she was in danger for her life, so she shot him one time, which killed him. Now, the reason I'm talking about it is because of this PCP allegation. I find it really hard to believe that he was on PCP. I highly doubt that. For one, he had his hands up the whole time, and he looked to be cooperating. Now, one might argue, well, he was walking away and he was walking towards his vehicle and this and that, blah blah blah. He wasn't doing anything really that bizarre, and maybe he was just trying to. Maybe he just felt security by standing next to his vehicle. I don't know. Who knows what you feel like when you're in that situation. There was a helicopter flying overhead. There was all this stuff going on. And this cop says she was afraid for her life. Well, she said that... okay, let's see. Not only that, but so she says that she thought he was on PCP, and she was afraid that he might do something crazy, and that he might even have a weapon, like he was going for the weapon inside the vehicle, which we find out later from a still frame in a video from the incident where the victim Terence Crutcher's blood was actually on the window of the driver's side window of the vehicle. So as he was standing there with his hands up, then he gets shot, and there's a still frame right after he was shot, and there's blood on a window. So he couldn't have been reaching in a window if there was a window rolled up. So she says she thought he was on PCP. Now this is based on what she says is training. Let's see. Okay, yeah. So she said she had recently undergone drug recognition training and believed the unarmed man was acting erratically and under the influence of angel dust. And this is her attorney, Scott Wood, told Tulsa World. Videos of the moments leading up to the shooting, however, show Crutcher walking slowly towards his SUV with his hands high up in the air in apparent compliance with cops' orders. The video shows he was not belligerent. His attorney, attorney Demario Salmon Simmons, who was representing the Crutcher family, told the Daily News, the video shows what the video shows. And basically, Tulsa Police Sergeant Dave Walker told Tulsa World that investigators found a vial of PCP in Crutcher's SUV, but did not determine whether he was under the influence of the drug at the time of the shooting. So it's pretty strange that they say they found a vial of PCP already in his car. And I don't know if they tested that like in a lab since this incident happened. I don't know what exactly they're trying. Like they found this vial, and then they said it was PCP. She suspected he was on PCP before they found the vial. What's the deal with PCP? I mean, ever since Rodney King, PCP's always been used for some kind of a extra action by the police that they have to shoot somebody immediately. I mean, let's go back to Rodney King. Same thing happened in that situation. With that, you have Los Angeles. Back in 1993, we had the grand jurors that he did not attack police officers on the night. That's what Rodney King told the grand jurors. He was beaten and complied with their orders after he stopped his car to end a high-speed pursuit, according to the transcript of the testimony. Mr. King's testimony on July 23rd is the first time he has spoken under oath about the beating on March 3rd, 1991. Mr. King did not testify in the state trial for the 4 officers charged in his beating, and there were no convictions. In his grand jury testimony, King provided the most detailed account of what it was like to be at the other end of the baton blows, kicks, and electronic shocks the officers administered over 80 seconds following the chase. The testimony is, of course, in sharp contrast to the picture painted of Mr. King by the lawyers for the 4 defendants, Stacy Kuhn, Lawrence Powell, Theodore Brezino, and Timothy Wind, the rookie who was terminated from the Los Angeles Police Force. The lawyers have said that Mr. King repeatedly ignored officers' commands to lie spread eagle on the ground and taunted them with obscene gestures and behaved as though he were on PCP, a hallucinogen. Before his testimony, but in his testimony to the grand jury, Mr. King said he obeyed officers' commands and denied that he was on PCP, a drug that causes some suspects to become combative. A toxicological expert testified during the state trial that no PCP was found in Mr. King's blood, although traces of alcohol and marijuana were present, which could have been not even from that night. So, all this hype about PCP and the police are really afraid of, these, let's just face it, black motorists being on PCP. So can you even drive on PCP? I don't think you really can. I think it's like, it gets you so impaired that driving's probably out of the question. What about PCP as far as like a drug that's prevalent in society? Is it even? It hasn't been for a long time, and even when it was, it really wasn't. I mean, it probably had its biggest moments in the early to late 70s. Like, it was made illegal in the 1960s. Let's just go over a little brief history about PCP. PCP was actually discovered serendipitously by Victor Maddox, a chemist at Park Davis in Michigan, while investigating synthetic analgesic agents. Although unexpected, PCP was identified as potentially interesting, and as such was submitted for pharmacological testing. You know, what the FDA does to tell you whether or not you can start selling drugs. The promising results of these pharmacological investigations led to the rapid development of PCP. It was approved for use as an investigational drug under the trade name Cernal in the 1950s as an anesthetic, but because of its long half-life and adverse side effects such as hallucinations, mania, delirium, and disorientation, it was removed from the market in 1965 and limited to veterinary use. But that's when it gained foothold among drug experimenters who called it peace pill, and by the mid-70s it was making headlines. All right, and then while the use may have declined dramatically since the mid-90s, popular awareness of PCP got a bump in August when Rolling Stone reported that NFL player Aaron Hernandez was a heavy user of PCP before being charged with murder. And in 2012, Los Angeles police busted the largest PCP lab ever discovered in U.S. soil. They arrested the lab's operators. Police found 130 gallons of liquid PCP, enough to make 10 million doses. And even though enough chemicals to make another 500 gallons. The lab was shipping gallon containers to addresses in Texas, Washington, D.C., and other states. All right, and then you have Dr. Robert Schezer, chair of the Department of Emergency Medicine at George Washington University in Washington, D.C. And he says he hasn't noticed any uptick in PCP use through the district, which is thought to be the nation's PCP epicenter. In all my life, I've never even heard anybody seen it in person or any of that stuff. I mean, PCP just is like the final taboo of drugs in the black market. Like, oh, you don't want to mess with this. I mean, I don't know. So where are we at with this? Do we have a potential false narrative about PCP? Because, I mean, it wouldn't be totally strange if they would have just left it at one or the other. Like, well, she thought he was on PCP because he was acting a little bit sporadic and weird. I don't know how based on the video evidence, that one doesn't really hold up. I mean, it's unfortunate that maybe these police officers should get to look at the video before they get to make up their backstory, but I don't know. Because it's clear in the video that he looks like he's complying with orders. The only time any kind of real movement happens is when they tase him, and then I mean, it's almost like right after he gets tased, she shoots him. And why did she shoot him? I don't know. Maybe because everything happened in an instant. Like the guy tased him, and he started jerking. The taser makes a loud noise. Maybe all that excitement just, you never know. The helicopter overhead making noise. And by the way, let's get back to the helicopter overhead. To further the suspicion by some that this PCP narrative might be just some fabrication, you have the two things. And, okay, then they find a vial of PCP in his car. Are we even supposed to believe that? Even if they did, quote unquote, find a vial, and they present you a vial and said, we found this in his car, I don't know if anybody's going to believe that. I know I don't believe it right out of the gate. So I'm just a casual observer. People right on the scene, family members and such that know him. He was coming back from community college. I don't know, maybe that should tell you something. PCP, I don't know, man. I don't know if I would believe it. So it could have been one or the other. Like, she could have dropped off that whole idea that she thought he might have been on PCP. So we have this helicopter flying overhead. And the whole time this is happening, we are getting dialogue from the helicopter to the other dispatchers and whatnot that you can hear on the radio. So the helicopter is actually being piloted by Betty Shelby's husband, Dave Shelby. And he has some colorful things to say the least. So I'm just going to read this. This isn't the actual transcript. This is like transcript with a tiny bit of narrative involved to try to give you an idea of what's going on while the transcript is also in there. And I'll go over a couple of finer points when we get to them. So anyway, the recordings show a point of view from those manning the helicopters that flew over the scene. Tulsa police officer McKenzie later confirmed that Dave Shelby, the husband of Officer Betty Shelby, was the pilot in the helicopter. First, those inside the helicopter say, Police 1, we are 1097 without him, 303, dispatch them answers 19-43. In layman's term, when police calls out 1097, that means arrived on scene. After identifying that the helicopter is on the scene, they ask, all right, Betty Joe, where are you at? Now remember, Betty's his wife, so maybe this adds another element to this that people aren't really talking about, or maybe they are talking about it. I don't know. I don't really watch mainstream TV news, and I haven't really watched too much coverage of this story unfolding. I've been kind of caught up in maybe checking out the one that's happening in North Carolina, because there's riots involved there and stuff, and it's just all this stuff all at once. It's hard to keep up with everything. But anyway, so you got this guy flying around up here, and his wife is down there with a gun, possibly holding a gun to a person who knows what's going on. No one really knows what's going on. So we're back. It said, Betty Joe, where are you at? The person inside the helicopter states he's got his hands up there for them now. Like, he's saying that the guy that they're calling a suspect or whatever has his hands up for the police officers that are standing like right in front of him. I believe there's 3 of them, and she's one of them, and the guy that tased Terence Crutcher is the other cop. So this is some weird dialogue. After identifying that the person has his hands up, the person in the helicopter says, addressing another person possibly inside the helicopter, says, "Mike, I'm gonna hit the record it. This guy is still walking." I don't know what that means. Someone says a phrase that is garbled, but it possibly sounds like, "and following commands," with a question mark. Then someone in the helicopter says, "Not for taser, I think." I don't know what all this means, so we're going to keep going. Around 7 seconds following that conversation, someone in the helicopter says, "Also, got a feeling it's about to happen. What's it? It looks like a bad dude, too. Might be on something." It almost sounds like everybody in the police force is destined to kill somebody, and then they get their payout and they get to retire. I mean, what is this? Also got a feeling it's about to happen. What is about to happen? And why does he immediately say it looks like a bad dude too? Something's about to happen. The guy's about to pull a gun out or something. I've also got a feeling it's about to happen. What's it? Is that the ultimate thing that cops are fearing? This black man? Obviously you can tell he's black. He's a pretty big guy from the sky or wherever you're at. He said it looks like a bad dude. Now that can only be based on race, not because he's big. The guy, and then finally he says might be on something. How can you tell if somebody's on something flying in a helicopter up above the ground? And to me, how can you tell he's doing anything but holding his hands up? I've watched the video several times. All right, then police officer traffic can be heard saying, "Which way are they facing?" Another, like, what does that matter? After that, someone in the helicopter can be heard saying, "Police 1, they are facing westbound. I think he may have just been tasered." The officers on dispatch can be heard shouting, "Shots fired," with someone in the helicopter saying, "Oh." The taser dispatch can be heard saying, 3-21, we have shots fired. We have 1 suspect down. We need EMSA here. What suspect? This guy did nothing wrong. Then someone in the helicopter says, "We need to get this eastbound closed down. If they could, they're gonna let anybody. They aren't gonna let anybody, okay?" Then a person in a helicopter continues, "Police 1, we're gonna need to get eastbound 36th Street. No, actually, we're gonna need 36th Street North shut down about at Lewis, and then probably back off 3 or 4 blocks to the west there." After that statement, someone in the helicopter says, "I'm going up a little higher now that they're here." Then police officer scanner traffic can be heard saying, "Adam 305, if we haven't already start EMSA." The police dispatch can be heard saying, 10-4, they're out. Not much longer, around 19 seconds. Tulsa police scanner traffic can be heard saying, "Charlie 305 on scene." Remember Charlie 305? Don't know what that means, but anyway, someone in the helicopter can be saying, "Is that car clear?" Say what, buddy? Hopefully they've cleared car. I don't see anybody necessarily looking in the car. I don't know. Police 1, has anyone cleared that vehicle yet? Then an officer scanner traffic, someone says 10-4. I believe 10-4 means yes. I think we all can agree to that. And someone in the helicopter says, "Okay, got 2 officers going down back here." So maybe they were planting the drugs in his car after I don't know. This PCP narrative sounds awfully strange to me. I didn't like it with the Rodney King thing because in the video I saw, it didn't look like he was doing anything other than trying to protect himself from the batons and the kicks, and maybe just trying to roll over into the ball, or he might have even tried to stand up once. Who wouldn't try to with all that beating coming down on you? So PCP, what the fuck? Does anybody believe this PCP narrative? And I don't know. Tell me what you think.